Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate. Sorry, I couldn't tell if my microphone was working or not. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Hopefully, everybody had a good weekend coming around the corner, coming back in from the 4th of July, everything that is the holiday season that's in the middle of the summer. And let's just get right into things. We have a good bit of material to prepare for. We're going to go into a slightly bit different direction. I have a few takes I want to give on a few different things, but we have a few other smaller stories. Nothing honestly huge or really honestly major going on outside of the doxing issue that's going on with, Lucas Gage, and as well as a lot of the what's becoming very typical or stereotypical right-wing infighting has now actually taken on a new direction. Really, I think it's been bubbling for a while, and clearly there's been some instances where you have one big pundit here, arguing with one pundit here. Largely, this has been in the realm of Israel. It's going to continue to be in the realm of Israel. But it it completely boiled over with Nick Fuentes and Jordan Peterson, and more specifically, really, it was Michaela Peterson involving herself. So there's two kind of huge stories going on right now between the new right and the old right. In terms of huge headlines, we don't have many like breaking, I guess to say. It's not really going to be shocking, to say the least. We do have a good bit from Biden coming out, some of the stuff from Leading Report and Raw's Alerts, and we'll get into that too. Just want to say, as we get this started, to definitely keep praying God for my parents and my little brother. Still going on with the personal situation at home, but God is good. That's all we can ask, really. Christ is King always, and also with that too, I'm looking forward to talking with the guest I'll be having on tomorrow. Forgive me, not having a guest on tomorrow. We'll be talking to a future guest tomorrow, and we'll get some stuff set up and get the show set up, and I'll show him the plugin that we use to be able to do the multi-streaming, and we'll have a pair of guests coming on. Very exciting. And we'll get a little bit more oriented on the direction of that as the time comes. And so with that, let's just go right into things, man. Subscribe to me on YouTube, follow on X, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, share the show if you enjoy it. And we're going to start things a bit differently here. We're going to start like this right off the rip. This little video is titled, Once You Notice, You Cannot Unsee. And I would like to use this video. It's 40 seconds long. I'm probably going to get copyrighted because of the music that's on here. But just to give everybody an idea of where am I at? Where is my head at? And what has happened to me in the last years? Let me put on my e-girl headphones. We'll get this started. Again, if anything is wrong with the volume, the sound, anything of that nature, please let me know. I will adjust it accordingly. So like you'd see right here on screen, once you notice, you cannot unsee. This has essentially been happening to me. It's been, an awakening to say the least. I guess more specifically, just pairing my recent kind of step into being a lot more forward facing with my beliefs, a lot more honed in on Christianity at large. And as well as like applying that, politically, has led me down some paths that, I never would have imagined going down before. Things that, a few years ago I would have called you're kind of insane. Like, no way I would have thought these things. Like, no way, really, would have been the response to a lot of these things. We'll just play this little video, and I think you're going to get the gist of this. It's only 40 seconds long. The sound's probably going to be a little loud, so we kind of go ahead and tune it down in advance. Let's hear it out, though. You're not sure who that account is. Red Jedi, Red 5D Jedi. That's the account that made this really good video, actually. For one, making these videos myself, and I've been doing YouTube for a little over a year now. Especially when previously I wasn't doing live streams at all. I was normally just doing actual just set it forget YouTube videos, which I'm gonna try to get doing a bit more of those here recently. Most of what you're gonna be seeing is just clips, but the ability for your computer to process that many images with that much motion that quickly is just something my laptop has difficulty doing. But props to that. And again, that's just like a visual tool to understand like where my head is at. I just thought it was a really good meme to kind of like point out like in terms of just the general discussions here with how difficult it is to even get people to budge on installing Christian frameworks into politics paired with the foreign influence from this country called Israel and everything that goes in with this. And what's up, Drowning in Music? It's it's a bit on a journey, man. It's like it's more akin to like a spiritual journey, I guess is the best way I could put it. Like the way it's kind of been leading me on to feel. And I just like a nice visual tool to like to set the tone because we're gonna be getting into some topics that's probably gonna make people uncomfortable. Because we will talk about the Lucas Gage situation. And again, this is titled I Have Noticed. Blessed John Deere boycott. But let's go with some of these smaller things to get it right off the top, okay? This is from Leading Report. And I wrote, this would break the internet if true. So this is from the Leading Report. Former Biden stenographer Mike McCormick believes Joe Biden blackmailed Barack Obama with threats of revealing the former president's alleged private homosexual lifestyle. Like, and when I first read this, we can watch this little video here afterwards of him telling Alex Jones in person. When I first saw this, I just thought of that scene in Star Wars where, Mace Windu has Palpatine, or Sidious, I guess at this point, tucked in a window on Coruscant as, Mace Windu went in there to confront him. And, Mace Windu, being being Obama, trying to confront Palpatine. And then Palpatine, like, essentially being like, no, I'll tell people you're gay. And then throws him out the window, essentially. But again, I can't even say this is surprising. I mean, maybe it's surprising to the normal or normie, the regular kind of person, because these are kind of things that would kind of be jokes. When in the online discourse, at least from what I've been seeing, the posts that I've been seeing on top of just the big Mike narrative, obviously, there's a lot that points to whether it's just the body language of Mr. Barack Obama from previous stuff, as well as like simple things like mannerisms. I guess mannerisms and body language are two of the same. There's already been a lot of evidence to point to the fact that he may lean that way. Maybe it's not like it, etched in stone he's homosexual, but I think there's already been enough out there, in the online sphere that has pointed to the fact that, Barack Obama probably leans a specific way. But no one's going to accept it, at least in the mainstream at the large. It's kind of like a funny joke. Same way with like Big Mike. People are like, ha ha ha. But like most people are like, they're still like, well, Michelle Obama's a woman. It's just a funny joke. Some people don't take it nearly as seriously. I see something like this as being like, it's very damning to, I think, a lot of the black community, because I think there's a good portion of the black community that holds Barack Obama in like this special kind of class. Now, what's funny is there's like a famous video that kind of makes this point. People can't connect the dots, and colors become everything essentially. And I say that meaning race. Of a black woman who's like in this history museum. And she's in this history museum, and she starts from one end of the history museum, and it's just all these presidents, and they're like wax figures. And she begins by slapping them. She just runs down this whole line and slaps them all. But the only one that she doesn't touch is Barack Obama. And I think that exemplifies, not for every black person, obviously, we don't talk in absolutes here, but there is a large sect of where a lot of the black communities, like, beginning in politics was like they went and voted for Barack Obama, because that's a huge thing, right? It was like a, we broke the color barrier once again, kind of like, man, I can't remember what his name is, Jackie Robinson moment. And that's essentially where I kind of feel like this ends. Like this is all that this report will be. I mean, maybe it's possible someone in the Biden family, because the Biden family is kind of insane, to be honest, just goes AWOL and nukes the world and drops it. I mean, nuking the world is in like dropping the story. And maybe it's somebody along the lines of Hunter Biden. I mean, I think they're in positions where they don't really have much left to lose. Now, take it with a grain of salt. This is from Leading Report as well. Leading Report's also had some less credible reporting they've done, especially revolving around like the Biden emergency. They were like back and forth on how legitimate they were operating with their sources. But watch this video here. This is Alex McCormick talking to Alex Jones on a specific thing. Now, I'm curious. I haven't seen the video. I only saw the little tag headline.
Something about Obama that, out of his personal life, that Obama had to hide. So he makes Biden his vice president. Biden always has this saying about Obama that he told him, I want to be the last guy in the room after everybody leaves when there's a big deal to be done. I want to be the last guy in the room with you. That's probably when Biden told him, okay, you're going to do this with me because I know this. And if you look at Biden,
and what is that thing that Obama's a homosexual?
Yeah, I think that's what he was talking about. Something about Obama.
The way Alex Jones just comes in like a gorilla, dude. Like, is this what I look like to my viewers? Probably. He's so good, dude, at what he does. But there it is, man. I mean, that's at least what Alex McCormick believes this is. Not sure. I mean, I'm assuming on InfoWars they're kind of explaining how this information got leaked and who leaked it and how. Not really sure if that's honestly even relevant. It speaks to the implosion that's happening in the Democratic Party right now. I think it's, I've not been in a position to see the establishment this weak in my lifetime, really, at least not, from being conscious of what these political actions and operatives are. So I'm kind of in a bit of uncharted territory, at least from where I have, instinct to be able to say this thing happens or this will probably happen or this will happen. It's kind of out of my territory right now at this point, just because I have not seen the establishment pushed into a corner this badly. So who's to say if this has any relevance moving forward? I think the relevance it does have is it just goes to show that the DNC is at the point now where they're kind of turning on each other. Essentially like a dog fight, really. Now you have a lot that starts with the Laura Loomer, all the medical emergency reporting, just going into great lengths to just talk about how they're back and forth, right? Like there's some staffers in there that are just like, they want out. They want to push this to the point where it's like, hey, dude, like we don't want to feel guilty of pushing this man into his casket. And then you have the other side, which is essentially like, they know that they are tied to the Biden administration. And that could be maybe it's just for pure benefit, right? Like they want Biden in because they want to be the ones who have the better chances to move up and network and communicate. Or maybe it's more of a nefarious reason, right? Where these people are hanging on for dear life because it's like they don't want to be prosecuted. I think it's a lot more of the latter and less of the former. I think, but there's probably a good combination of the two. Now, to make this more poignant, I do have a bit here. Let's see if I can find it here. This is from Laura Loomer from the DNC. So to put a pin in just how they're in a corner, essentially, right? Like the DNC, you have Karine Jean-Pierre essentially going on a nice 30 to 40 minute rant where she's essentially looks like she's about to cry. She's being pushed into a spot. All these memes like, you want lies with that? Like the McDonald's meme, like you want fries with that? And that's what I mean in uncharted territory where I don't know what's going to happen next because who really knows how much power the establishment's going to wield and flaunt in front of people with the mask off. Not really sure because I don't know. I mean, obviously, common sense would tell you they're going to try to play this as calmly and as suave as they possibly can to continually to pull the wool over people's eyes, obviously in their own self-interest to continue to exist. But I do want to take it here, though. This is from Laura Loomer on X. And I saw this and I was like, I think this speaks more to the fact that there is this kind of breaking down. But it's too late. I think the Biden family is going to ride this no matter even if they get 7% when it comes to the electorate come this November. But you can see it here on screen. I'm going to make this a bit bigger actually for everybody to see. I'm going to refresh this too. It always takes away part of my menus when I make it bigger. But anyways, Laura Loomer tweeting here saying, Democrats are leaving the meeting at the DNC, say they have not reached a consensus about whether or not Joe Biden should be their nominee. The Democrat Party is imploding. Some members walked out of the meeting. Now, she didn't tag it here, but I grabbed this little clip of a video. This is from John Michael Roche, and I believe this is some of the members of the DNC walking out of this meeting. And they ask him, are you guys on the same page? It's only 11 seconds, but listen to the answer this guy gives.
Are you all on the same page?
No.
What do you mean you're not on the same page?
We're not even in the same book.
We're not even in the same book, is what he says. So to get word that some of them are leaving the meeting, probably some of them are bailing on the party, I would imagine at this point. It's a failing option. I don't think that you could have any ounce of confidence that this ticket will win at all, but I think it's the one that they're stuck with. And I think that's kind of insane because earlier I'd seen a report saying that the Clinton Kamala ticket actually has in polling, and I think they were using betting polling numbers, is more favorable now at this point than what the current ticket is. But again, it's too late. It's too late to pull back. There's too many states. I think there's like 3 major ones. I believe Wisconsin being one of them, where you would have to openly cheat in front of the American people to put someone else on that ticket and ballot, and for things to be like legal and all good. Something I think they're not going to do. I'm of the mindset now where I believe that this is the candidate. They're just going to have a lame ticket, right? Like we tried. So I guess a good news in the sense that there's really not much opposition, but also you have to understand this isn't like we're winning no matter what kind of thing, because you still got to go to the polls. You still got to make sure you go in there, and don't leave it up to the rest of everybody. Like, well, like we got it in the bag, right? Everybody sees how Biden sacks, it's like kind of resting on your laurels. Shouldn't be doing that. I don't want to be speaking to people to be doing that either. So definitely make sure you still go and vote regardless. And I'm not the biggest Trump supporter either, but I am a Trump supporter, just in terms of I draw the line at where his Christianity ends, essentially. But just I think there's evidence now, video evidence specifically, of you have Democrats now, being open to essentially the media and the paparazzi, as it were, bad mouthing Biden. Now, obviously, he had a lot of the media kind of bail on him, especially when you have MSNBC article here, ABC article there, CNN article here, and all these different segments. Especially right after the debate, they were just like, "We got to bail." So to move on from this, though, a few other smaller stories. Never e-girls. You just never e-girls. This Hawk Tuah girl is apparently, and this is from the AF posting, is close to signing a reality TV deal following her viral video. I also saw a recent one too, where she was paid $30,000 to judge a bikini contest. Again, she's following the typical stereotypical how to be a right-wing influencer. Do something dramatically and flagrantly heterosexually promiscuous, get cheered on by a bunch of beer drinking chuds, and now you're famous. And that's essentially what's happening here with her. It's kind of, it's just pathetic. Let me just be honest. It's just really pathetic. Even Stu Peters chimed in on a tweet recently where she turned down OnlyFans. Obviously, she said that herself. But she was approached by Playboy for a deal as well, and she turned that down also. Stu Peters called her dumb for that, which, I think in a sense of like a secular stance, probably. Because my idea is like, you got famous for the sound you make when you perform oral sex. Like, where do you think your career kind of is going to lead you there? Like you think you're going to get a slot to talk at Fox News? I mean, honestly, like, it would track, like if she did. Like, honestly, the best thing that would track from this is if she ends up on the Daily Wire. Then that would make the most sense. It'd be like, oh, okay, she's right where she belongs. But it's just like, dude, this incessant at this point, man, incessant, truly, of a girl doing something straight and in public, just in spite of, transgender ideology. That's all it takes to become this overnight success in the conservative movement. And as long as you're doing that and not talking about, honestly, probably literally anything else, you're fine. That seems to be like the only flagship issue that's there's no out of bounds for. You can do whatever you want in terms of those issues. But when it comes to race and it comes to religion, it becomes an entirely different playing field. Things that I've just, again, I have noticed over a long period of time, and it just keeps building. It just keeps adding to this list. And I'm going to be honest too. Let me change back to the me cam. One thing I do want to say is like, what you have to combat when you're also faced with the fact of like, okay, I've been lied to here, I've been lied to there. Let me take these off too. Is you have to avoid getting into that what else have I been lied about? Now, you should obviously carry this once you realize like something major in your life has been lied to you about, or maybe it's been something for a long time that you've been lied about as well. It never feels good, honestly. It feels good afterwards to understand and know that you have the awareness to move forward from that. But one thing you have to avoid is like going like the whole flat earther route. Now, I'm not speaking on flat earth, nor do I really have a strong opinion on it whatsoever. But it's just to say, to avoid being paranoid once you do have this big revelation, like, oh, this lied to me, and then turning and looking at everything and being like, this is a lie. You can't, as much as it's like it would seem right to do that, it's like the logic doesn't track A to B and B to C, because again, you would need new evidence for every single thing. And I think it is good to critique things. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying you want to avoid jumping into every rabbit hole just because you were lied to about one thing, especially because there's so many psychological operations going on. It takes a strong integral IQ essentially to withstand a lot of the misnomer information, a lot of like the smaller, low end, hard to like obscure. Man, I cannot speak today. And to avoid falling in the pit trap of believing essentially anything that anyone tells you who's not a media personality. Because then you put yourself in a position to then be believing in crazy, deranged things. You fall into some kind of cult lifestyle. Again, not saying it's not good to critique things. I'm just saying, again, everything with a grain of salt. Doesn't matter who's telling you, whether it's the media, whether it's me, whether it's black-pilled XX account or whatever. It's make sure you take each one of those stories, each bit of evidence you presented with a grain of salt, and to truly like put it to the test and not just take it for granted. No. Another small one, and another funny one with this too, while we're on the talk to a girl, is I saw a great post that was decrying a bunch of missionary work, because a lot of missionary work, most people don't understand missionary work, because, you go to Africa, you go and you help with the Sudanese or the Lebanese, or you go into all these different random areas. And I agree with you. I agree with what the post said, because the post was essentially decrying it and saying like, why are we doing missionary work? Our country is as degenerate as they come. And essentially also pointing out like we should find people, they're going and being sarcastic, but finding people who do missionary work until we can make red states truly red. And what's funny was it was doing this while quoting this Hawk Chua girl. And one of the top comments was, well, I'm not sure how much more evangelizing you want to do. This girl father's a pastor. And the original poster responded, and he was like, that tracks actually. I would have guessed that actually. And it's to make the point of evangelizing, I should say, your own weird, twisted, kind of tolerant, egalitarian, progressive version of Christianity is not evangelizing anybody. And in fact, it's like, it makes it harder to actually truly evangelize. And so what I mean by that is when everyone's like used to the fact of like this weak, soft, perverted imitation of what Christianity is, what's just be nice. And then you raise people on this idea that Christianity is to just be nice. And when they're presented with like hard metal Christianity, which is not that, it has the duality, it has the wrath and the love, right? It has both. It has both sides. It has the light, it has the dark. It's the full message. It's the fire and brimstone. People shy away from it. They fear it. Essentially, they go like, I didn't realize it was like this. Like, I don't know if I can believe in a God who does things like this. And it's like, okay, then you know what you should do is you should just believe the made up religion you're already believing in, and just stop calling it Christianity. Now I know that's a hard pill for some people to swallow, and I also understand like too. Most people are like, well, you don't want to be confrontational about it too, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, but like, how many days are you willing to sit here and watch your country literally fall to the ground before you're like, you know what? Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to make this person's feelings hurt because they're lying about Jesus. I don't know. At least for me, it's not a hard bridge to cross. But at the same time, I find myself at the bridge far too many times than I can truly honestly understand. But to make it a point though, too, where again, I'm not shocked that this girl's dad's a pastor. It makes sense that she's like this, dude. Because if anything, this pastor probably went his entire life making sure he didn't offend a soul. in the name of Jesus. And it's like, no, brother, you are ushering people straight to hell when you give them one half of a message and refuse to preach on the other side. It makes me sad, man. And it reminds me, honestly, truly of, I don't believe it was Douglas Wilson. There's another really great preacher who essentially was attacking Joel Osteen on the same fact, which is when you only preach half the message, you are literally leading people to hell. You are essentially do become worse than a lot of other people at this point. And again, too, it makes it harder because then when you want to present, Christianity as it is, you're countered with, but why aren't we nice? Just makes it hard to do this, right? But then again, this kind of interaction is what turns somebody from a TPUSA, I guess, low level, just like MAGA supporter into somebody who's like a forward facing Christian, Groiper kind of personality, which again, most people are like, well, it's way too radical. It's way too much. Trust me, man. I even bought the lie too. I was drinking that Kool-Aid 6 years ago. I'm like, dude, Daily Wire is so good, man. Dude, look at the Daily Wire go, dude. Yeah, Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. I'm ashamed of myself. I truly am. But to keep going, we have some more smaller stories to get into before we get to these two bigger ticket items. One, again, we do have a bit from Robbie Starbuck about the John Deere boycott, or I guess the newly formed boycott that's going to be happening, because he unveiled a lot of stuff moving into it. But before we get into that, we have this here from Elon Musk, which is electronic voting machines and anything mailed in is too risky. We should mandate paper ballots and in-person voting only. And I agree. I don't see why we couldn't. Is it hard to move back? Well, I'll tell you what the reality is. The reality is the fact that we don't own, or I guess what's the best way to say this? Because of the algorithms that operate in the voting machines are private, it is proprietary information, you don't have access to it. So which means that, while the government may see the valley totals and be standing behind the machine, they don't have the specific access, nor is the code open source to the point that we can truly see what happens in these election machines while they do tally and tabulate votes. Now, obviously, anybody can go to the machine, click start, and then be like, hey, this says this percentage here. But there's no way to know if there's some kind of, back-end algorithm that goes, 1 out of every 4 T make J, and essentially be like, 1 out of every 4 Trump votes convert the next vote, no matter what it is, to a Biden vote. Something kind of like odd like that we don't have access to, right? Now, what's insane is I believe there's been multiple hearings, through different committees. But again, I'm at the point where Congress does what? Nothing really, to be quite true. I mean, honestly, I don't know. They talk a lot, to be fair, but don't do anything. And how many committees have we had about, they bring in the Wisconsin votes, the Georgia voting machines are being looked at. We can't account for this many votes, and we still use it. It's like, all right, we're 4 years later, and we're still going to use these same broken machines that everybody complained about 4 years ago. And you know what they did 4 years before that? They complained about these voting machines, and it's still owned by what? It's like Old Dominion. I believe there's 2 different large companies that operate this. I believe Dominion is the largest one. Doesn't seem like you're really mad about it now, because here we are months before the election, and we're still going to be using these machines. And then maybe it's a matter of convenience. The people who actually do the tallying of the votes, they just don't even want to do it. I don't care about saving this country or caring about the integrity of the elections. You're not making me count paper ballots. And maybe that's reality. Maybe that's why there is no push. But at least there's seemingly no grassroots effort to get rid of these voting machines. But it seems to be one of the most known things that they're privately owned. Again, one of these things where logically it just we've had 4 years to do what, and really all we've gotten is, a bunch of convictions on Trump. What have we really gotten in these 4 years? We couldn't even get paper ballots. And then it makes me think, too, are we truly in the position of the only way anything gets done is if you have to force it by by executive order through the presidency? I guess. And and I think this speaks to the fact of when Tim Pool is, he rails on the fact that as much as I may disagree with some of his takes, he rails on the fact of I don't see how people are looking at this and going, there's not going to be a civil war. Like, how could you sit there and think that it's not around the corner? And so, you know, you look at things like this, you look at things like the fact of like right now, I mean, I was thinking about it this morning, it was like really depressing. You have January 6th people who are sitting in cells right now who have never even gotten their court case heard yet. 3+ years. Like I got married and my wife's been pregnant in that time. And these guys are sitting in what, a cage? Dude, you think that those guys right now think that the people on the outside care about them? No, I don't think that I could sit here reasonably and say, man, dude, yeah, that January 6th defendant who hasn't had his case heard yet, and he's been sitting in probably a solitary cell for 3.5 years. Yeah, dude, he's really excited for this upcoming election. Like, no, dude's just probably sitting there he just became the most nationalistic socialist you could probably awesomely think of. It's unfortunate, but it's those things that I think about. And then I think about what our current Congress is doing, and it's just like, what's going on? You know, and I don't want to throw out these super large, big umbrellas like, man, nobody does anything. Nobody. I just think of it in terms of, this is something so simple. Just don't use private companies for voting. Done. Now, obviously, I understand why federally you're not going to get that push, especially seeing who's president right now and seeing how the Congress iteration is sitting right now, the makeup of a Congress. But even individual states, we couldn't get what, like 10 red states to eliminate this voting completely. And then again, that's where I think you get to the real makeup of what the problem is. And I think the real makeup of what the problem is for the majority of it is the average person is just so apathetic to anything that happens to them. They could not possibly be inconvenienced to care about something like that. And I hate thinking like that, but it is what it is. But I do agree with Elon Musk here. We should be banning the voting machines as soon as possible. And if we don't go the route of banning machines, make them public, make them open source, and allow everyone who's got an internet connection to go to wisconsinvotingmachine.com and click on it, and they can get a real-time update of what every ballot's doing. Now, obviously not give out people's personal information, but just see like each ballot counting and what information you could give. Now, we're going to get to, okay, this is one of the funnier things here. For anybody who didn't hear, this is Whoopi Goldberg saying that she would vote for Biden no matter how much he poops. I kid you not. What's funny is literally this last episode, I was sitting here going, I can't go as far as Nick Fuentes and being like, dude, like he wants to sit here and push like super hard reactionary, fascistic and go like monarchy, go the route of like king. And I'm like, I couldn't do that, man. Like I'm not there yet. And I'm not like, I kind of got this deep rooted in me that's like, I could not supplant what the founding fathers gave us. And then I watched this video and I was like, dude, give me a king. We need to be ruled by something, dude. Because this isn't it, dude. I can't even do this clip justice. I don't even think quote can do it justice. Like you just got to take a listen to this 2 minutes because I don't think people like this should have the right to vote. I'm going to be honest. And again, any issue with this sound, please let me know. I will adjust accordingly.
I'm just going to add my 2 cents because I wasn't here on the day that y'all talked about it. I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go. Now,
if you can't say a sentence, what job do you think you can do as president? It's like, she has to be reading off of like a statement they gave her, dude. They're like, it's so bad. You have to just say everything that's happened is good and you're okay with it. Again, typical Democrat trope right here.
Now, he had a bad night the first time that he went out and debated with Kamala Harris. And everybody wanted him to quit that and say, you can't talk to women like this, or you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. He came back, said, you know what, I got it, and gave 4 years. So, yeah, I have poopy days all the time. I step in so much poo you can't even imagine.
like, see, it went right to it's not happening at all. It's never happening. Biden's in the best shape of his life. And we skipped the whole like, well, I mean, like, okay, some of these are like, okay, we skipped that entirely when Ren went right to presidents pooping their pants and not being able to speak is good. And here's why. like at light speed too.
Imagine. Now, I'm not running the world, but I don't know anybody who doesn't step in stuff at some point. So I'm just simply saying, yeah, there are 2 debates. And if he can't do what he needs to do for the second debate, I'll join any crew that says get rid of him. But
did you think like Jesus himself? Have you seen this clip, Sock? Part of me is like, does she think Jesus himself will come down and heal Biden before the second debate? Because that's about the only thing that's going to be able to put him up to any kind of speed to be able to have this second debate that would be adequate enough for her to go, okay, he's good. He can do this. There's no way, man. No way.
Loyalty to me, if you are doing the job, I might not like everything you're doing. I don't like it all. But I'm going to stand behind you like those guys stand behind the guy who should have been the person people were talking about saying, yeah, Biden had a bad day, but this guy couldn't tell the truth if it split his lip. But nobody said that, but Anna said that, I believe.
And again, they do this so often where they go, and he can't tell the truth for nothing. All he did was lie. And not once, not even once. They sit there and be like, everything he said was a lie. Okay, can you name one? Can you just like rip one right off the top of your head to kind of like pair it with evidence to say it? No, dude. It's again, this just blanket, like, you know, presidents just, they go up there and lie, dude. Bilderberg Group runs everything, man. Like, it's just like, come on, dude.
Something, she's not quite as colorful as I am. But the question now
Give me a chance.
The question now is, because lots of Democrats are coming out saying, you know, oh, find somebody else. But when we tried to do that with DT, this is my new way of just describing him. When we said, listen, he shouldn't be on the ballot. Everybody said, no, no, no. The people chose him. We can't take him off the ballot. Well, I don't understand why anybody thinks it's going to be any easier to take Biden off the ballot.
Under Christian nationalism, this show gets banned. Like saying it's disgusting the way they blindly back whoever has a D by their name. It's the only way for them. And truly, like, The View, I mean, they kind of need Biden to be in there, right? I mean, kind of not, though. Wouldn't you think the View's ratings would just jump out the woozah if Trump was president? And then every day from there, they could go back to like Orange Man Bad. You know, I might be completely backwards on that, honestly. But I think the most damning thing about this whole thing is like, obviously, like, she's going to come in there and she's going to be like, you know, like, President Biden, to act as if there's something that could be done that would change the performance level of what Biden did in the first debate to the second debate. Because like she said, she's like, you know, I'll join any group who's saying we need a new nominee if he struggles in the second debate. Like, where's that gonna come from? Where are you gonna pull that up out of? Like, I just, again, it makes me think like they just got fed lines by the White House, dude. Like, Karine Jean-Pierre like emailed him earlier and said, hey, this is what you got to say. Like, Whoopi, go ahead and take this on. Like, just say you like pooping your pants. I guess. They do need Trump, man. And I think, honestly, like, I think they'd be better served if they would just start rooting for him right now. Just start. Help get him in there so you can get The View 4 more years. This show is just so... It's sad to me that me, you know, and every other conservative pundit sits here and will grab these clips and be like this. But again, it's because The View is watched by so many people. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of these bigger shows. I'm not sure what its actual ratings are, but it clearly has sway and impact to some people. I would imagine normal people, normie voters. Adderall is the only way that can help them. I know, man. I feel bad because I sit here and think, I'm like, dude, there's no way he can keep getting pumped with this many drugs, and he's just like, because one of the worst things I can imagine, and I say this because I'm a Christian, dude. I'm a Christian, and I love everybody, and I as much evil and disgustingness as Joe Biden has done, I'll still feel bad if I'm watching a live display of him as giving a speech or something, and he dies on air. Because it's like, dude, it's just like you have to blame the people around him at that point too, and being like, man, they were like just forcing this guy. Do I think guy's got a good chance to make it to heaven? Not if he starts repenting, dude. I mean, if he starts repenting, maybe. But it's just to say, like, he's a bad person, especially because of everything he's done previously, super predators and all that. He's been in politics for 50 some years. He's had his hand on the scales for a while. So who's to say how many countless lives he's kind of violated in the political sense, but it still makes me feel bad to watch an old man kind of collapse like that. You're saying Trump becoming president saved CNN, Trump losing 2020 killed the company. That's very, very true. That was what made me think of that too, was essentially CNN having to fire out all of their what would you call that? Like their hosts, their forward hosts, like the Brian Stelters, and I can't remember the other guy's name, Don Lemon, and some of those those bigger pundits who are doing like their night shows and their daily hosts as well. That's what made me think of that too. Like the View needs to change their tune, man. But to move on from the View, move this out of the way. If you remember the skit I had on stream that actually got me in trouble a little bit, that copyright, well, it was Ari Schaefer, if you remember. Ari Schaefer, I gotta keep adjusting this, forgive me, was a normal, regular occurring person who was on the Joe Rogan podcast. Well, what's funny enough is that we do this skit with him, him asking Jews in a Jewish, market to apologize for killing Jesus with like this petition. Tucker dropped an interview with him. Now I don't have any clips because I just saw this loosely before I wanted to get into the show. But for anyone who's interested and enjoyed what Ari had to say, within the first 30 seconds, it seems like the interview starts right on that note right away. But again, Ari Schaefer's like that. He's kind of fearless in that comedian realm. But just wanted to point that out to anybody who didn't see this. It's probably a really good interview to watch, and I'm probably gonna watch it here later on. Maybe not later in the night, but when I get time, I would like to listen to this because I imagine it's probably comical and pretty good, and it's probably poignant to some of the topics we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So, to get into more of the harder chunk news, we have this from Raw's Alert. You have a Navy sailor who had attempted to access restricted medical records on Biden multiple times. Now, this is from Fort Belvoir in Virginia. I think it's a junior. Yes, right here. According to officials, a junior Navy sailor attempted to access President Biden's medical records from a military database 3 times in February but failed. The sailor, whose name remains undisclosed, faced administrative discipline following an investigation that concluded in late April. The sailor, part of the Navy's hospital corps based at Fort Belvoir, I don't know if that's how you say that, so forgive me, Virginia, accessed the Genesis Medical Health System on February 23rd, but did not retrieve President Biden's records. President Biden was informed of the attempted access shortly after White House staff were notified by the Defense Department. The sailor never reached the president's medical records and couldn't have accessed the information because it is restricted. The junior Navy sailor has since been disciplined. And nothing else here. You got somebody saying it's getting wild. Raw's Alert with the eyes like blink, blink. The Democrat trying to get records to get him out of office. I thought so too. Part of me thinks as well, you have all of this coming out literally right now. But again, as it said, this happened in February but failed. Same thing with the Parkinson's specialist. But as I was understanding the way Tim Poole was explaining it when I was listening to his show from yesterday, is that he's not like a Parkinson's specialist at all. He's just like a neuro doctor. But that he recently wrote a paper on Parkinson's, so people are kind of tying the two together. Either way, he had 8 visits in 8 months. Then you have this information getting dropped out. I think you're right, Sock. I don't even think it's Democrats trying to get him out of office. I think this is, well, I mean, obviously it's Democrats getting him out of office. I think this is the split, right? I think these are the Democrats who have less power, who are outside of the Biden apparatchiks, who want their nominees to get in, are now playing the part of, uncovering and leaking documents to, the October surprises. Although at this point, it'll be an any month surprise because that faction of the DNC is going to do whatever they can to get him out of office because they don't want to face the lame duck hand. And at the same time, you got to understand, even the ones who aren't, tied to the Biden family or the Biden administration, like directly, they need him to directly win to have power and influence. There's the ones who are still outside of that influence and administration are still going to be possibly facing, prosecution from Donald Trump when he takes and resumes office, or assumes office, I should say. Let me not make that let me knock on wood. So I think that's what we see. That's why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing here. Trying to do the most to possibly damage him to a point where there's no way, right? Like, and I think they're doing as much as they can. The medical emergency stuff's a poor way to do it, especially seeing how the media over the last, 3+ years has done everything to persuade the public that that's not the case. I'm kind of at the point where I think they're going to have to reach outside of that. I mean, maybe in the light of him going at the Obamas, instead of being some kind of like riveting nature there, right? Because maybe the Obamas come out, not the Obamas, I keep mixing it up. They're like the same thing. But maybe you have the Bidens come out and they say, hey, yeah, your president lied to you. He was doing all of this, but he was homosexual the whole time. But then the Obamas can come out and take the progressive stance and be like, whoa, dude. Like, what, you think I'm afraid to be gay? Like, and they could do some crazy something like that. Like, I don't know. I just think going at it with the medical records and the medical stuff is like, it's overplayed, right? Like the people who are voting for Biden have been hearing this stuff about his mental state for the last 3 years, and they're still not buying it. So I don't think that this Ross alert with this is going to push the needle a little bit, and less so this, but more so talking about that Parkinson's specialist, which is pretty damn alarming, to be honest, with having that many visits in that short of a period. I think essentially, I think they're probably definitely concerned. And I think there was a neuro doctor who I saw give a comment, which was the largest symptom that they are seeing from the Biden, Mr. Joe Biden right now, is rigidity, which I didn't even realize was an actual like neurological degenerative symptom, where essentially is like the cornholio hands that everybody kind of points to. More specifically, when right after the debate, there was that moment where Joe Biden's kind of leading him down the stairs, but he's not doing it normally. He's not bending his knees. He's essentially like straight-legged, just like waddling off. I guess that kind of rigidity in the posture as well is one of the top or more alarming symptoms before somebody would go on to develop full-blown Parkinson's. And I don't wish that on anybody, let alone, as much as bad as Joe Biden's done, I don't wish on him either. I just don't think it's going to be enough to move the needle to a point where the Biden family has no choice to be like, okay, we're out. Well, DNC can take over again. Because I think as it sits right now, the Biden family's just they've got the ace up their sleeve. Like, they're like, we're president, we're not backing down, dude. As long as they don't have some kind of super damning October surprise. As you go to a different direction from here, we're going to take another hard segue. I've never been a proponent of UBI. And if you don't know what UBI is Universal Basic Income. I just don't understand how we're going to be able to circumvent AI eliminating jobs at an exponential rate. I can't work that logic in my head, because it's only going to get more and more exponential. Obviously, common sense implies this. That's how technology is. Technology is an exponential factor on human efficiency. And we're already seeing it happen. And if it continues at this rate with no plan to get around this ridiculous lapse of jobs, I think eventually it's going to be not even a conservative or a Democrat thing. It's going to be UBI is just here. It's necessary for the existence of some people's existence. And I think we're not too far out from this. This is like an 8 to 12 year possibility and probability. It'll be more along the lines of, where it's sourced from and how much will then be the discussion that deters whether it's Republican or Democrat. Well, Republicans believe UBI should be sourced here. I think it's going to become a reality, essentially, moving forward. Saying COVID showed people will give up trying to work with UBI. I think that's two different things there. So with COVID, it's like nothing's happening at all, like no one's working, period. And so you essentially you have to be printing money from nothing and then handing it to people who aren't producing. That's an entirely different scenario versus there are no actual jobs that people can step into. Say and again, this is hypothetical, so we're a bit further away, right? But say in 12 years, there's no manufacturing jobs. Like you can't work at Honda. Honda's completely ran by AI. Well, then and then that implies, right? So then that implies like GNC, Ford, Dodge, all of them. Now there's no jobs for them either. And then all the fast foods, 4 years before that happened, all fast foods gave up on people and then they're all AI. I think you're going to get to a point where there physically won't be enough jobs, and without UBI, people are going to become violent. And it's essentially like you're pulling the rung up on the ladders, right? That's what AI is seeming to do right now currently with a lot of these jobs, is the lowest tier. And so it's like fast foods, for example. And if you can automate this, you automate this, you automate this. Well, now every fast food location would normally employ 25 people, now employs 7. And so I think you do that on a mass scale all at once in a short period of time. I don't think people are going to be able to stop the masses from demanding UBI. I don't even see it as like a possibility type thing or a probability thing. I think it's like it's going to happen, period. And that's going to, and to be honest with you, I don't really have a political stance on it, and I've never been a proponent of it either. I'm just making the observation of, on a long enough time scale, it's going to happen. Like where there's just not going to be enough jobs there's not going to be, 330 million jobs that can be held by American citizens when this occurs. Now, again, I can't speak to mitigating factors. I'm also not like a big tech guru who can be like, well, actually this department in this industry over here will having these things. Because I think even on a small scale, like take this factory, for example, we'll watch this video. This is like a factory that's operated 24/7 with no employees. Well, obviously it has to have some employee, right? Like the maintenance guy's got to check in on the robots. So what happens if the ratio then becomes that this factory that once employed 1,000 people now needs 2? It needs the morning maintenance man and the night maintenance man. Those are like exponential reductions of jobs that like I don't think you can compete with. And the reality is too, like you could have like some geopolitically, for example, some geographical locations having all of their jobs zapped at once, but in 3 states over, those jobs remain fine because they didn't have Ford and GMC. They were working with like Jeep and some other kind of manufacturing company that's not nearly as advanced. So it's not going to be like it happens uniformly across everywhere. It's going to happen in pockets gradually and then suddenly. And I don't know what's going to happen from there. That's why I can only make the commonsensical assumption that because it's going to happen so fast, you're going to have so many people that are just demanding it, regardless of where they might politically lie. They're just going to go, hey, dude, I can't get a job anywhere. And the only places that offer it, I need like a 4-year college degree that I can't pay for, that I don't have time for, where I have kids and we can't move. I think there's a lot of things that play there that kind of leads up to the fact that this is going to be what the reality is. But this is from Mario to Fall. China launches a 24/7 robot factory with 0 live workers. China has unveiled a 24/7 robot-operated factory to produce Xiaomi phones, dubbed a dark factory by the brand's head. This facility will operate without live workers, revolutionizing phone manufacturing. Now, the source is Next to TV. Now, I did want to go ahead and play. It's only a minute long, get an idea of what this looks like. But that also just made me think, too, the way they said that as well. All of the corners they will be able to cut at this point, now that they don't have to, like they said, dark factory. Well, this factory then now, if it's 24/7 with no humans, can probably operate from like, midnight until 7 in the morning and have no lights, probably take all the air conditioning out and take away all of those things that you would have to put into a building to make it operable for humans. like bathrooms, like you mean all the sanitation, like all these things then become, well, why do you need it if we don't have people here? And that's just a side point before we play this.
工厂不需要人，也能24小时运转。未来，机器能自己配合，天衣无缝。未来，工厂里连一颗灰尘也进不去。未来，品质由自研的全智能机器把控。未来，甚至每秒就能生产一台手机。未来需要想象，但更需要去实现。这就是小米。
It's funny because the music just keeps getting more and more like cinematic, but the guy's voice like not changing.
探索未来的一小步，未来才刚刚开始。
So they're clearly unveiling it as like this beautiful and great thing. You know, it's in China right now. I mean, you know, we see all the stuff that they're doing with Tesla and all the things, you know, and people have pointed out, you know, how Tesla's behind and people have, you know, made funny stories about how like they still fear putting their thing on the auto drive and taking their hands off the wheel just because they don't trust it. I mean, for me personally, I don't think I'd ever be able to trust anything like that. I've driven quite a bit, and I've been somebody who's like a long commute to work for a lot of different jobs I've had. The thought of me just being able to drive without putting my hands on the wheel is just like out of like instinctual fear. I'll probably never be able to do it, to be honest. But it's just a note to point out there of like, hey, there's a reality in which these things affect us at a much faster rate than we probably were thinking. And like I said, you know, technology is as we understand it is an exponent to human efficiency, right? It's like you take human efficiency, and whatever the technology is you know, is a variable in the exponent form on operating on that. Essentially anything, right? Like you need to chop down a tree, well, you use your hand. Well, okay. I mean, that's base level 1, unit 1. It's gonna take you forever. But then you have an axe, and then it's like, well, now you take the human efficiency and you've now multiplied it, you know, 100-fold in the efficiency it was beforehand with the hand, you know, and these steps just continue. Obviously, I would imagine most people understand that. I think, though, now we're in a position where technology is being efficient upon itself, and I mean now, you know, one little innovative thing can send technology, you know, years into the future. And so we got to be like kind of, you know, careful of where this may take us and how fast it may take us. Sock is also saying China's in a lot of trouble right now. Their financial system is collapsing hard. They are. China's essentially like a fake threat, really. Especially in a lot of the information that I've been seeing coming out of China is exactly what Sock is saying, where they're kind of everything that they're doing is essentially a front. It's a front to appear as it is in an ever failing attempt to climb to what America is. But again, China doesn't operate on the same kind of moral standards that we do here in America. So, you know, their ability to essentially move capital and eliminate, you know, the posterity of human life there to manipulate their environment and financials into what it may be. They don't have to play by the same rules we do here in the States. But that, again, is like here in the States, we play by rules that honors people's rights. So China does have at least fluidity in that aspect, where it's like, you know, they might be doing bad right now, but, you know, with having the absolute power, I guess less absolute power than what it used to be, but having the power sourced and centralized in the way that it is in China, it allows for specific maneuvers to be taken place in terms that could course correct for these things. But you're 100% right. Until they actually can fully adapt into the free market system, China will never be able to compete wholeheartedly with where we are today. But in terms of technology and innovation, nobody has a copyright patent on that, right? Like, you know, all it really takes is one kind of genius to be born in some random country, and then that country by itself can overnight have a huge overgrowth. And I think the way we're kind of looking at it right now take this into the light of, TikTok versus, it's not ByteDance, it's the parent company. I can't think of what it's called in China, because China has TikTok, but it's not called TikTok. It's got its own specific algorithm. And, I think if you're just looking at it on the social factors there, I'm kind of fearful of what the next coming generations of what people may look like and from other countries. I think we're in a position where we're going to be the low IQ, the fat, the soft people coming out of America. It's just some things to make notice of, I guess, per se. And I think, the way it gets handled here in the States will be way different than how it would get handled in a foreign country. But I think that future is upon us, and it's happening much, much faster than I would be comfortable with. But again, who am I to reach my hand out and be like, oh yeah, let me stop China, or like, yeah, let me stop AI developments? It's like, you have the top of the top philanthropists, philosophers, tech gurus, thought leaders on this planet. And they go, well, if we stop developing it, like, they will. And so it's an arms race, right? Life doesn't repeat, it rhymes. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And that's when you get these, we have the nuclear arms race between us and Soviet Union. Well, now we're in the AI arms race. Now, it's not talked about it like that, because that just really reflects the kind of social environment we are in here in the States and at large, and how the media operates internationally as well, which operates with this kind of odd, normalcy bias, even though us having this long of a period of peace is an anomaly in the course of human history. And there's just a lot there. I think it's something that I fear of, purely in the fact of, I know I'm probably going to see some crazy dystopic, futuristic nightmare kind of things in my lifetime. So I guess it's better to be prepared for what that may come, and how it may come and reveal itself too. But let's get into one of the bigger topics here, okay? The Robbie Starbuck. And if you're not familiar, Robbie Starbuck, he's made multiple appearances on Timcast. He's one of the more outspoken Congress people that we have as a Republican. I believe he's a Tennessee guy. He's from Tennessee. I'm not sure if he's currently in office or he previously served or is trying to get into a new position. Not really sure about that, but he made a video exposing John Deere, and he went deep on it. So Libs of TikTok quoted him as well. So I have this video pulled up from here. So he's saying it's time to expose John Deere. Let me go ahead and do his bio here if you're not familiar with him. Let me go to his page, actually. I'll make sure you can see it. It's his new film streaming at the War on Children. He's a Cuban American. I did not know that. He used to direct stars. Now he fights for freedom. So it looks like he's a Hollywood, like a Hollywood person. Landon Starbuck. Maybe he didn't win. I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm positive that he did run at a certain point in Tennessee for a specific thing. Yeah, right here, Nashville, Tennessee. I could be wrong on that. I'm not the most familiar with him. It looks like he's making film and video. So again, good on him for impacting the culture. But let's go back to this, right? It's time to expose John Deere. And if you're not familiar with John Deere is one of like two essentially brands that exist for tractors, right? You have oh my gosh, I'm going to get attacked at home for not remembering this. Oh, it's the red one, International Harvester and John Deere. It's like the two main ones, and it's like you pick your side essentially. The same way people do with cars. Like some car people are like, I'm Ford only. Well, the rhetoric is no different in the land of tractors. But he goes on. John Deere has been one of the most beloved brands by conservative farmers, but recently, on CEO John May's watch, they've gone woke. Here's some of what we found. He says so John Deere funded a pride event for kids as young as 3. They had some kind of genderbread man training. I have no idea what that means. They asked employees to list their preferred pronouns on all communications. I guess that's low level. Like, what company doesn't do that now? Bill Gates is listed as their largest shareholder. I mean, them and who else, dude? Everyone else. John Deere celebrated their accounting and finance team taking United Way's 21-day United for Equity program. Oh, Lord. When I did United for Equity program, It promoted Ibram Kendi, who is the anti-racist of our time. The woke children's book, Anti-Racist Baby. Awake to Woke to Work, a podcast on the concept of whiteness. Woke activist Robin DiAngelo, bigotry against Christians who supposedly have Christian privilege, and more. So it just goes on and on and on to say that there's all this stuff that John Deere did. But we have the video here. And the video is going to do us more justice than me reading all of this disgusting DEI crap that I don't care to hear about. ESG scores. I still think the greatest thing ever that was ever said about ESG scores was Michael Malice when he says, "Oh, of course the poors will love this. Of course all of the welfare state people will love this. Of course the lower tier communities love this." He was like, because you know why? He was like, because the one thing that these people can compete against others on is obedience. Look, Daddy State. Look, I'm doing what you said, wearing a mask. Look, I'm snitching on them because they're not wearing, like, oh, dude, I heard Michael Malice say that and I was like, dude, that's probably that's the quote of this decade. But anyways, this is an 8-minute video. Robbie Starbuck ripping in some information on the John Deere. They're calling for a boycott, obviously. But again, I think most people are not going to find it hard to not buy a tractor in the near future. So I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to boycott this. But I think this may speak waves in terms of the farmer community. So we'll see what happens with this. We'll see how tuned in the average farmer is who uses John Deere and see if they're willing to back off of these purchases. This is a little bit different one to do, seeing how the fact of like the average cost of a lot of these items are like in the multi-millions of dollars, including things like harvesters and such. So, you know, I can't see too many farmers being like, yeah, I'm going to take back that 2.5. I'll take a 1 million loss right now. Maybe. I mean, we had a hard time with Bud Light. So who sees? Again, any issue with the sound, please let me know, up or down. I will change it and adjust it accordingly.
All right, y'all, it's time to expose John Deere. As many of you know, we had a very big win recently with Tractor Supply where we got them to drop all their woke policies. Well, I regret to inform you that John Deere, another company that relies on conservative customers, has also gone woke. This page you see behind me is their personal pronoun policy. They encourage employees to use pronouns in all communication. And I'm just warning you now, you're going to want to strap in because this is going to be a long video and, in my opinion,
just pride for 3 to 10-year-old kids. How do you not get arrested for some stuff like this, dude? You know what I mean? Like, and I hate to pause it so early into this too. There's another video going viral that people were talking about where this girl was trying to like sell her OnlyFans by making all these stupid like just like in your face in the public videos. But what I noticed though, and so she's being super promiscuous. She's like flashing her boobs everywhere. She's like pulling up her skirt. She's like, oh no, and like bending over, doing weird things at a water fountain. And one of my first thoughts was, if a guy halfway attempted this, like with his own assets, he would literally be getting arrested for like, public indecency and all this other stuff. Like, look, he's a predator. I mean, not anymore. I don't really think that now, but I mean, it used to be that way and it should be that way. But when women do it, people are like, oh, haha, look at girl get naked on street. And it's like, bro, that's a 29-year-old woman stripping down in front of kids. Why do we not treat it the same? But again, we have to understand we operate with these odd and weird double standards where it just is that way, right? It's just men are always going to be deemed as creepy as the predators, as the aggressors, as the violators, and women can do the same thing. This double standard will be with us for the rest of our lives. But you would expect, though, that the law wouldn't care about double standards and they would enforce the law as it should be done, which is something that would be rightful to expect. Maybe not, though.
Much worse than Tractor Supply. But let's continue. This is an event that John Deere sponsored called Capital City Pride's Little Rainbow Run. It was for kids as young as 3 years old to engage in pride. And side note, I don't care if you're gay or straight, kids should not be celebrating what type of sex you like. It's weird, it's creepy. Here's a fun photo we found on LinkedIn. Yes, this is John Deere employees being trained on the genderbread man. Yes, the genderbread man. If you're not familiar with that, it's the whole concept that basically gender is completely fluid. There's no such thing as your biological sex. You just are whatever you think you are.
Oh, it's
so much
so
like Tractor Supply used to
dude.
have, John Deere has what are called ERG groups. These are a way to divide people on identity lines.
Can you imagine going and getting hired by John Deere, and on your second day, you're walking in and they're pointing to this genderbread man, and they go, and this is why you can be gay. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, it's so hard to not be blackpilled by stuff, dude. I'm just like, man.
It's pure identity politics. They separate you by race, sexuality, or any number of these things. This is a post about their rainbow ERG group, which, if you guessed was their gay group, you were correct. You're gonna wanna see the logos that were made for it. As much as I wish I was joking, I am very much not joking. These are real logos that were posted on LinkedIn. Which, side note, John Deere is much more open about their belief system on LinkedIn than they are on other social medias. I wonder why that is. But you know what? We'll get back to their stuff on LinkedIn in a minute. Let's go check on their diversity, equity, inclusion page. By the way, Bill Gates is their largest shareholder. Are you getting super conservative vibes yet from John Deere? On this page from John Deere's website, they note that the finance team really took things to the next level in 2020 when they said their diversity efforts were just simply not enough. So how did they up the game? Let me show you. One of many ways they upped the game on DEI was for the financing team leaders to do something called a 21-day United for Equity challenge through United Way. So I decided I should take the 21-day challenge. But before I show you what I went through for a few hours, and yes, you should feel sorry for me because I did have to go through the full 21-day thing in a couple of hours. Just note that they are promoting this accounting and finance team as their promotion of inclusive hiring practices, and that they're leading the way with a diversity, equity, and inclusion mindset. So this is what apparently they want from employees. In this 21-day challenge, it was recommended to me that I read Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. In this section here, it says that racism is something that we all carry within ourselves. As a result, we must unlearn biased and racist ideas to replace them with tools and actions that are centered around it.
What does this have to do with the tractor? It's
equity, empathy, and solidarity. Here's some stuff you should know about Ibram Kendi. Kendi believes that capitalism and racism are inextricably linked, and you must be an anti-capitalist to be an anti-racist. But enough about Kendi. Here's another one of the challenges I received as part of that 21-day equity challenge. It says, read Awake to Woke to Work, Building a Race Equity Culture, essentially a book about bringing wokeness to work. My other options during that challenge were to review Racial Equity Tool's new glossary of racial equity terms with over 60 terms and new definitions. I mean, this is really the changing of language to try to subvert normalcy. That's what it is. Just so you know, communists have always done this. Another challenge option I received was to listen to the podcast episode, Bias Isn't Just a Police Problem, It's a Preschool Problem. No, I'm not joking.
This is just like, this is just, it's so much. It's like, that's just, it's so much. I mean, dude, that's like, so to get hired, you have like a 21-day onboarding process of anti-capitalism and anti-racism. Oh, dude. But the fact is, like, we're only hearing about it now from like all these other pundits, right? Like somebody like Robbie Starbuck. So it's like, so how many dudes with their creased John Deere hat, wearing their dirty jeans, went in quietly, did all this stuff, and haven't said a word, dude? They just took it. Bro, like, we need men.
I wish I was. And just when we thought we were done with Ibram Kendi, here he comes. He's back again, and they're discussing his book, Anti-Racist Baby. Yes, that is the children's book about anti-racism, which again means anti-capitalism to Ibram Kendi. This 21-day challenge also refers to Jacob Blake as a victim. And in case you forgot who Jacob Blake is, let me remind you. Police believe Jacob Blake was kidnapping children and stealing a car at the time, and Blake had a knife in his hand when he was shot. He had just recently done almost the same thing, taking a car and money, but was charged with just sexual assault in that instance, and was wanted at the time that this incident took place for that sexual assault. When I was recommended a book about black transgender people, the first thing that popped in my mind, by the way, tractors. That was, I mean, it immediately links together for me, you know. I don't know about you. It was also recommended to me that I listen to a podcast series called Seeing White to discover the history of how the concept of white...
Bro, okay, like, I get the idea, dude. Like, bro, there's 8 minutes of this? Okay, maybe I'll start it. Dude, bro. Yeah, don't put the Bible anywhere, dude. Like, Lord forgive we ever do something like that. But John Deere's out here practicing the religion of worshiping black people. What? Dude, okay. Maybe they're on a different point at this point, dude. I'm about to stop watching this video, dude. It's just like, we get it, you know. And I'm not saying it to Robbie Starbuck. That is just so much of just the same repetitive, just nonsense, dude. Bro, it's indoctrination, full force indoctrination too. He was a little out there. Full force indoctrination, dude. How have we not heard about this stuff sooner, dude? This has been in place for, it's had to have been in place for some time, dude. They didn't just roll this out yesterday.
And that was promoted on the John Deere website that the finance team did that, and apparently they love when employees do things like this because they've given millions to United Way since then. And I'm sure right now you guys are all itching to know about the journey that John Deere employees have as rainbow allies. So watch this video. I'm at least pretty sure none of them.
It's so emasculating. Dude, it's humiliating, dude. I don't understand how people can work in the corporate world, dude, when the majority of it's operated like this, from a top-down way, and the only way you can even attempt to even complain is through some HR person, and even then, you're not even probably giving a complaint to a real person. It's you filling out a form that'll get processed at a later date, where some other second random person will then hear you out, and then it just gets put in a box, and then you just end up quitting 2 weeks later because nothing changed. I couldn't do this, dude. I couldn't do this. This is like, but understand though, like people work there currently who just go along with it. Like, John Deere is a big company, man. So am I to assume that, like, oh, what's up, Sock? Am I to assume, I missed that message, by the way, I'm sorry. Am I to assume that the average person is just this default liberal? Like, there's no way. It's impossible. But maybe. Or is the average person just so apathetic, so unconvicted, so devoid of any belief in anything, period? They'll just go, whatever puts money in my account, dude. Could be.
Are hostages, but you decide.
DEI is no longer an option. It's a business imperative if we want to maintain our leadership in the marketplace and continue to attract great talent and retain the talent.
I'm learning each day how different we all could be and how many unconscious biases are there.
They're trying to make me sound racist. I'm not doing it.
Cautious about them.
Now, why is all of this happening? Because there's much more, and we have a lot to expose. This is going to be coming out over the course of the next few weeks, at the very least. But we need to point out, it seems like all of this has started to happen under CEO John May. John May, since he's been there, has overseen all of these woke policies coming forward, the embrace of DEI, which is just inappropriate. We don't.
I got to be honest. I could have, the physiognomy. I can't speak today, dude. Lord forgive me, man. He's clearly a liberal, dude. I could show this person to anybody. I'll print this photo out right now, go run down to the street and be like, dude, who do you think this guy votes for? Be like, oh, that's a Biden voter for sure, dude. Like, but why? I mean, just look at him, dude. he just has that look. Like, he looks like his wife yells at him in public.
We don't seek our values to be forced on anybody else. We just want neutral workplaces and neutral businesses to buy products from. We don't need your politics or your social values. We just want to have good products, good customer service. That's it. So John has a choice to make, and that's his choice. He's either going to double down on these crazy policies, or he's going to recognize that they are diametrically opposed to the values of his customers. I hope that he chooses to get rid of these crazy policies and do the right thing like Tractor Supply, so we can bring America back to sanity. And you know, I don't know about y'all, but I think John Deere would be in a much better position if they were more focused on the core business instead of DEI and woke policies, because they just had to do mass layoffs and have announced a production shift to Mexico. I can't think of anything that's a larger betrayal of the American worker than taking jobs to Mexico while forcing this DEI down their throats. It's a violation of so many of your employees' values and your customers' values to push this woke Trojan horse for leftism. It is time for a change to bring America back to sanity. And that is what our exposés are going to continue to do, is put pressure on corporate America to tell the truth about the values they're espousing.
I think this is a good thing. I think if this is a continual pattern of behavior, not from John Deere, obviously John Deere might probably going to keep doing what they're doing. Robbie Starbuck needs to keep doing this. If he can keep finding in all these ins and outs of all these companies from these details and get these whistleblowers, every single one of them, dude. Let the world know what these people do behind the scenes once you get that job offer and how they operate. Should, dude. Should be public. That's so gross, dude. That's so disgusting. That's like, I mean, that's like the most egregious thing I've seen. Like, that's worse than Target, and that's worse than what Bud Light did. This is like John Deere, like going over the top to make sure that they are like enforcing all these programs. I mean, look at it, dude. You need a bullet point list. Like the Bud Light was over a couple things, like 2 things. And then Target was over like 1 thing. But then again, like I said before you even saw any of this, right? It's like just by a proxy of how you purchase tractors, how expensive they are. I don't really think you're going to be seeing any like large kind of like meaningful boycotts here soon, but it looks like their company's already failing to. And honestly, like the least American thing they did was move their stuff to the production in Mexico. But again, I guess for anyone who's aware, don't support John Deere. And if you know somebody who you know owns a fleet of them, at least like let them know, especially if they're politically kind of in tune with things. But then again, you know, I don't think you're going to get on just principle and merit alone. You're going to get a bunch of farmers going in and turning in their $1 million tractors. Maybe sell them and buy an international harvester too. But who's to say IH isn't just as bad? It's really only 2 big companies that dominate in that range. At least as far as I know, you know, I'm not a farmer by any means, but I did grow up in the countryside in this area like that. So I have a decent idea. It really is, at least in my area, it was International Harvester and John Deere. Those are the 2 main ones that kind of dominated. But that was it for the John Deere thing. That was, I'm so, what's the word? What's the best way to say this? I'm so just tired of this same old, like, trans here, queer this, white people bad. It's like, come on, dude. Like these ideas are so stale and cooked. It's like, just get rid of them, dude. And if you find yourself in a position where you're working for one of these people, dude, like I'm sorry, but just like leave. Just stop working for these people. Now, I get people have money and finances tied up and all that, but dude, I'm saying it because I'm somebody who put their money where their mouth is, and I've done it like 8 times in the last 3 years. Like, oh, you guys blast this trash music like the first day I walk in on the sales job. See ya. Like, I'm not doing this, bro. I can't even hear this guy across the room. And it's like you got to have like the self-agency to make these decisions and be like, hey, like I'm not going to put up with this stuff. And, you know, I have that same thought process for anybody who works at this John Deere company. I mean, you saw the thing. It looked like there were some country good old boys sitting in the crowd being taught about genderbread, man. Bro, I'd have been there for 10 seconds. I probably would have said something to somebody and then I would have left. Unfortunately, that is one negative character trait of mine, and I'm like very keen to enjoy confrontation. But again, like dude, I'd be laughing actually. I'd be like, dude, there's no way. I'm just over it though. I'm very over the fact that this is so incessant, and then people are just like, they keep acting like they're surprised. Like, dude, every company's doing this, and they get away with it because not enough people are willing to put their money where their mouth is and walk away. People won't even make it, you know, publicly uncomfortable enough with their words, right? Like, if you can't even make it uncomfortable to the point where you just are like, you know, at least voicing your dissent and being like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, and are just silently taking it, well, then the assumption across the board is like, well, we're all in this together. This is what we're doing. This is how we're moving. And I know I apply the same thing to policing at large too, which is like, dude, like there needs to be a better honor system with that as well. Like for someone like me, like I could never go be a cop right now, dude. Like I know there's too much broken in just the nature of how policing is done that I could never feel good about myself ever being a police officer. Knowing the specific laws that are on the books, knowing the specific ways we handle ourselves, knowing I could be put in a position where I could be doing something that I morally disagree with. Can't do it. I just can't. Like I would never even want to willingly put myself in that position. Now, we're on the final ticket item here. This is the one I wrote out a bit for him. So, start here. Oh, I put the wrong thing on screen. Where are we at? Right here. Okay. This is the article that really kind of, I just looked at it and was like, dude, I didn't realize it was this bad. But we have it from Bennett's Phylactery, who it's an account I'm not familiar with. But he's saying, you might be thinking, surely that headline is an ironic clickbait thing. But no, the Jerusalem Post really ran a hit piece on God. AF Post right here, Rabbi Shmuley writes an article for the Jerusalem Post accusing God of anti-Semitism. Let me clear out some of these tabs here real quick. I'm not killing my computer. Is God an anti-Semite? Opinion. Like, at least it's an opinion piece. Massive thank you to Sock. I appreciate that. Every company is full of DEI crap. And that's, I think that's where we're at, man. I think it's at the point where, like, and I even said this with my family too, like, I'm at the point where, like, if I come off of any kind of gig economy or subcontractor stuff, I'm making my own business. Like, there's not a path forward for me anymore now. And again, huge thank you for the super chat, dude. Thank you. There's no path for me that I go, yeah, I'll work for these companies. No, dude. No. Not a chance in hell. I give an ounce of my time to a company that operates that way. I'm not even going to go in there and be like, well, I can help from the inside. Like, no, dude, scrap it. There's no reason to even begin to even put up with this stuff, dude. And especially the way that Robbie Starbuck was framing it, seeing how the CEO has so much control over these things. Like, bro, the CEO should just be either canned or, like, the board needs to get a hold of them. Like, something needs to change. But again, that all hinges on if they're not hurting economically and people are, like, not buying their stuff because of this, then there's no incentive for them to change. And they'd rather buddy up with the ESG scores and be like, look, we obey. Look how woke we are. Look how diverse we are. And it's just all black people. Look how, whatever, how gay we are. And it's like all this pride stuff. Just like, and maybe that's the thing, right? Like, maybe that's how the parallel economy becomes born. It's all the people who essentially just no longer want to put up with all of this DEI crap, as you put it, go out on a limb and they start their own businesses and they just draw a hard line, dude. I don't care how good this job is, not dealing with that stuff. But again, huge thank you, Sock, for that super chat. I appreciate you, dog. And then this article is just like, if we're going back to the Israel stuff, it's just like, and I hate to do this because I feel like I've been talking about the Israel stuff for the past like 5-6 shows. It's just, man, I'm like, I feel like I'm getting blindsided, dude. Like, I feel like my left tackle just got blown over and I'm over here like, boom. Because what is all of this ridiculous influence? There's no way that someone wrote this article either, dude. Like, this is like the 21st time I've looked at this thing. Is God an anti-Semite, dude? We're reaching biblical levels of delusion is what we're reaching. I just, man. And so there's not even, I'm not even gonna care for how he wants to substantiate what that argument is either. You know what I'm saying? Like, just no. And it's on the same trope, right? We're on this trope of clearly there is a concerted effort to continue to uphold and this implication that Jewish people are superior to everyone else that walks this planet. Now, it's done in multiple different ways. It's done in negative ways where you're just not allowed to say it. It's done in positive ways where people get banned and nuked and doxxed and all of this stuff, etc., etc. So this is the starting point, right? Because this is just like, there's just so much of this stuff. But if you're not familiar, Lucas Gage has been banned or really suspended off of X for 6 months, I believe. Now, we have this from 1984. And this is in this realm of clearly going after Jewish influence. He says 1984 as directly quoting Elon, to which Elon did reply to this one. I believe it was this one. Maybe not this one. I'll start with this one to read it off. He says, what law did he break, Elon Musk? Jewish law? Talmudic law? Israeli law? Because I know for a fact that there's no law in America that he's broken. It is not illegal to criticize the Jews in this country. Are you really a defender of free speech, or are you just a hypocrite and liar? Who do you serve, the people or your Jewish masters? Free Lucas Gage. This Saks Pet Care Company is going woke to get that sweet, sweet ESG money. Hey, get out of here. I can't have you supporting that woke crap. No, I hope your business does well, but get out of here. Get out of here. We don't want no woke stuff. I want to go to the one where Elon actually responds to this, because I have to be honest, when I did see the one in question that got Lucas Gage suspended, I did think it was like, okay, you know, possibly, but here's where I'm going to draw the line though. Oh man, wrong one. Forgive me. It's this one, right? So he's saying the extent that Lucas Gage is being targeted is insane. And here's why. There have been numerous other direct calls for violence, dude, from people like Jordan Peterson, from people like James Woods, from people like Conserva Daily, who all are large, massive accounts who have directly tweeted like word for word things such as like, give him hell, Netanyahu, or Laura Loomer had one where she was like, fly it to the ground, nuke them, bomb them all, like. And so Lucas's tweet was this. Let me see if I can find it, because it's none of these. I had it actually earlier. It's this tweet right here. No, I clicked on that again. Which tweet is it? Oh, it's this one. Forgive me, dude. I'm like losing my mind. I'm like, it had to have been this one. It wasn't this one. Okay. This is Elon responding to 1984 on this one, saying that Lucas Gage made repeated and clear calls for violence, which is illegal. Now, Elon follows this up with a picture of the tweet. He says a rule applies to everybody except for the UN exemption. So for some reason, UN politicians have an exemption for, I don't know why, for recognized leaders of countries. If politicians can say something to the UN General Assembly, then they can say it here. To which he goes on to say, 1984 response back, saying he never and would never call for violence. So Elon posted it. This is the post that triggered the 6-month suspension. So Lucas is saying, the rabbi admit Jewishness is a poison to us. He goes on to say, we have every right to remove these poisonous people and their satanic isms from our society. Questionable. I gotta say, when I read it, I was like, you know, okay. It's not direct, it's more ambiguous, but like, you know, he played too much into their hand. You know, you gave him too much ammo. Like, there's a better way you could have put this out that didn't have any kind of maybe loose implication of violence. But I think Suleiman Ahmed put this well, really well. Suleiman Ahmed said, can you explain why the post on the left leads to a suspension, while the posts on the right do not? Either Twitter allows free speech or absolute free speech, and then no one should be suspended. This is my preference. He's given like 3 options here. Or 2, or there is selective censorship for what is considered crossing the line into hate speech. In that case, why have the people on the right not been suspended while the person on the left has been? So again, we just saw this one, right? This is what he said. He said, we have every right to remove poisonous people and their isms from our society. Paired alongside, right next to it, is Laura Loomer saying, there's no such thing as an entire state or country or state. It's a figment of imagination. And she says, for the sake of humanity and what is righteous, must level Gaza, flatten it into a parking lot, and then glass it. James Wood said, no ceasefire, no compromise, no forgiveness, #kill them all. Still up. So once again, this double standard that I have noticed, right? Now, I'm going to take it here because I finally got a tweet that had a little bit of traction here. It's one of my more recent ones. Let me find it if I can. let's see. Right here. Because this is relevant to the Michaela Peterson issue. I said I'm so tired of it. Anti-white posting is everywhere. It's institutionalized. It is the literal air we breathe. Not to mention anti-Christian and even anti-Muslim and Indian. But all of Con Inc. changes its tune regarding one specific group. I have seen and I can't unsee. And so you see this is a quote tweet of Michaela Peterson, which is Jordan Peterson's daughter, who came out of nowhere essentially and was arguing against Nick Fuentes. Because if you were unaware, Nick Fuentes responded to somebody's tweet with just the word Jews, literally Jews. And then Michaela goes on to talk about how, Nick Fuentes has called them rats and this kind of stuff, and they need to be banned. And we're at the position now where everything the left doesn't like is racist and everything the right doesn't like is a Nazi. The same tactics and everything. But what's insane about this is she says that, while Nick Fuentes is saying, he's using the word rat, he needs to be banned and censored and deemed a hate speech and a Nazi. She clearly was unaware that her own father on Twitter had called Nick Fuentes a rat, literally using the same exact terms. No call for her father. Obviously, clearly, why would she? But it points out this clear and ever-growing standard in which you just can't criticize this one specific group. There's a lot that revolves around it, and it's just, I'm timidly getting into these topics anymore, and I'm coming from it from a forward-facing Christian perspective, but I mean exactly what I say here. Like, I have seen, and I can't unsee. I keep seeing over and over and over again these same tropes. I mean, I'm falling into these spots where it's like, no, don't click on early life. And it's like, you click on early life and it was like, this person was, they worked for Israel, or they were in the IDF, or they did this. And it's like, how? How? And to the point even too, and this is two issues tied up in one, but they're happening at the same exact time. Again, Lucas Gage being suspended for 6 months is one issue that revolves around Israel. He's being doxxed. He's being sent, random deliveries. He had to move his wife and kids out of the home. His social security number was being posted. And that's loosely relevant due to the fact that the head of trust and security here on X is somehow, and again, every single time is what people will say, right? But he's a former IDF officer, Zach Prapia or something like that. And he used to work for Israel or the IDF. And then you have the other situation, which is Michaela Peterson getting irritated with Nick Fuentes and then tagging in Jordan Peterson and then watching essentially Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson, who are supposedly, these free speech advocates, all of a sudden putting the clamps on censorship when it comes to Nick Fuentes. Yeah, why are so many people pro-death? I don't know, Sock. I don't understand. I mean, we saw this, it kind of bubble up almost initially without the Israel at all, when it was brought about by, I believe, Tucker Carlson, who broached the topic of, why do we, herald that we dropped the nukes on these two civilian cities in Japan. And people kind of point to the fact of and it's like, and Tucker kind of puts out this argument essentially of you don't have to justify killing millions of civilians. You don't really need to justify it. And what he really did was he took that first step into maybe the Allies weren't all the good guys they're made out to be in World War II. Maybe there's a story somewhere in the World War II that we're not seeing. Or maybe the story that we understand of World War II is one that we have been meant to see and understand and breed and believe. Now, that opens up a whole new cans of worms we're not going to get into. But I think that's one of these opening moments where I saw it, where I was like, that's actually not a hard stance to come to. Is probably dropping a nuclear bomb that kills millions of innocent people is not a good thing to do. Evil. And then watching all of the typical and stereotypical standard conservative pundits kind of wrestle and be like, well, actually, no, it was good because, and they kind of wrestled to get there to keep their bylines in place. Now, I won't opine on this issue too much longer, as I am only really a low tier noticer, as it were, because I am just only recently being awakened to this. I know I've followed politics my entire life, but when it comes to the specific degenerate nature, the degeneration really of social fabric and social norms, paired with the foreign influence of Israel, paired with Judaism, paired with the falling Christianity and the subversion that exists with all of these things, it is just a web, it is a knot that is all connected. And so we'll clearly chip away at it each and every single day we run this show, but I did grab a segment from Stu Peters and Lucas Gage, where Lucas Gage is talking to Stu Peters about what's currently going on with him. So we'll go ahead and play that. I'm actually thankful that Stu Peters had him on, because as of right now, Lucas Gage is banned essentially literally everywhere. So he's not allowed to put on anything. I think Rumble is his only place he has right now. So let me go ahead and nuke some of these out of here. Okay, let me get this pulled up here. So this is Stu Peters with Lucas Gage. I believe it's about 9 minutes long. It's cut in different portions while Lucas kind of goes over all these different things that's happening to him. I mean, and they were being upfront with it, right? Like half of them who were doxing him were sending a message about, like, you know, they're sending him Israeli flags. They're doing the most to, like, let it be known that, like, they're doing it for this reason. And, like, and this is what you get for talking, for opening people's eyes towards the nature of Jewish people, I guess, of what's going on. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Lucas Gage. There's a lot of things I disagree with Lucas Gage on. But really, to kind of put the pin in this issue is to see, like, these massive accounts be able to say much more direct and harsher things that call towards violence be completely fine. But then knowingly, this guy is in the middle, like 4 days into a doxing campaign where his social security number has been leaked and everything else about him has been leaked to the public. And then he's clearly dealing with it in a way where he's kind of losing his mind, and he's having these crazy kind of like paranoid takes, and he's coming on, he's angry. And it's like, I mean, yeah, dude, he's being doxxed to an insane degree. He's been swatted 3 times now at this rate. It's probably more at this point. Having the police come out, having to move your family out of your own home because of all this. I can't lie. I wouldn't be in the best state of mind either. But for then him to have this take where he was like, all these people for 4 days straight are sending him this stuff. And then he goes to X and says, hey, I want to get rid of these poisonous people. And then that's the one that gets banned for 6 months. It's like, okay, dude, what do you want me to think? Like, if anything, by doing that, it makes me think that there is some kind of, there's credence to this idea that the Jews are everywhere and they're going to do anything they can to exert their power over people. That's my thought when this is how it happens. When I can be so easily shown and disproved all of these other examples from all these other larger accounts that just so happen to be pro-Israel. So I'm out on a limb here. So I'm like, so just don't play stupid with me. And I'm not talking to you guys. I'm saying, please don't play dumb with me. The obvious implication is this. If it wasn't so, then take the 2 seconds it takes to look at these posts that are clearly much worse and still live and still on your platform, and reverse the policy and either pull Gage out of suspension or ban all of them too. Because right now it's not consistent, and the only thing it's consistent with is the fact that Jews somehow can just get away with stuff. Don't like me talking like this? Figure out why it keeps happening so I don't have to talk like this. So let's go ahead and go and watch this. Lucas Gage, Stu Peters, and let him give it his opinion himself. Let me make this a little bit bigger. All right.
My wife said, don't you dare burn it. I said, I have to. This Talmud says that Jesus Christ is burning in hell in semen and shit. You want to talk about hate speech? That's hate speech. I decided to, protest it. Literally, Stu, while I was going to go do it, 4 delivery people came to my house at the same time. They ran out of pizza deliveries, right? They ran out of Domino's. I told all the Domino's store, blacklist me off your store. So now they're hitting up mom and pop shops. So these are small businesses losing money. $66 worth of toppings on pizzas. So I got so mad. I'm like, that's enough. I'm going to protest with this Talmud. And I just burned it. I didn't say burn this and then go do this to a synagogue, or I did the flag and go get a gun. I never said anything about violence. According to the thing, I was suspended for violent speech, incitement to harm. The Talmud was just a picture. I took a video, but it didn't go well, so I just had the still frame. Remember last time I got suspended for violent speech, right? It was a deceptively edited video, 50-minute rant. They chopped it down to a minute 15, took it out of context, right? When I got suspended last time, they showed me the 3 tweets that got me suspended. The fire extinguisher, which made the fire extinguisher meme, the Michael Myers video where I stomp on a thing, and then it was the guy with the actual rant. There is no tweet that says this is why you're suspended. I appealed it yesterday. They rejected it, of course. Where did I say anything that was incitement to violence? That's what it is, incitement to violence, that I'm telling people to go do something violent.
Just him saying that, and then him not having an immediate reason when he was suspended, only for Elon to then respond publicly on a post with which the specific one was, makes me think that they just suspended him outright. And then they looked backwards and with hindsight and were like, we'll find just whichever one's the worst one and we'll ban him for that one. Like, there's no way you're going to go, hey, you broke this rule. We're not going to tell you how you broke the rule, but the consequences are going to be much more severe than the very typical discipline you would get. Like, that doesn't make any sense, dude. It's like, if you have it concretely being like, no, that person called for violence. You go, yeah, dude, you see, you did it right here. But the fact that they didn't, and then after the fact, we're finding out, oh, it was this one. It makes me feel like they just went back and they were like, which one was the worst one? We'll ban him for it.
Stu, I am against violence. I've made multiple tweets about it. I've done a space the day before about no violence. My speech at the JP conference, the Jewish Problem Conference, I literally said, I'm against violence. This is a spiritual war for the hearts and minds of the people. I'm not saying kinetic war against these people. I have no criminal record. I've never been in trouble. And they keep calling me a violent Jew hater. The violence to them, Stu, is the truth. They doxed my social security number. Everyone open a bank loan with this. So what kind of normal blogger has access to this information? So as you said, this isn't some guy in his basement, Stu. I feel this is Israeli intelligence. David Lang, who keeps denying I think he's also an awesome Jew. He's saying, no, I'm not. But he's definitely someone who works with him. And this guy, David Lang, bragged years ago about getting the FBI to my house in 2020. What caused this recent outrage? They've had my address for years.
How could someone publicly brag about swatting somebody? And like, you don't face any penalties for that. As far as I understand, it's almost always, swatting cases are almost always taken on by federal or over state lines departments, because that's generally how it happens. So it always kind of escalates it to a higher tier of disciplining or whoever has responsibility over said case. It's just like ridiculous, dude.
They've never gone this far. So either it was the JP conference speech or when I called out David Lang again, because I want to set him up for this expose. I'm going to show who he actually is on Twitter. I don't know what it is, Stu, but I've never been handcuffed in my life. And there are people, there are Jews or some other people, this guy, Ali something, saying that I got arrested for terrorism. He's trying to make it like I'm crazy for no reason. I put a knife through, or a gladius through the Israeli flag. No, these things were sent to me as intimidation techniques. And to say, F you guys, I'm going to destroy these items. They're trying to play this narrative that I bought the Talmud myself. They're also, some of them are claiming I'm doxing myself, emailing myself, and swatting myself for donations. These are the people who draw swastikas on synagogues, call in bomb threats on their own people just to troll and get anti-Semitism high. But they're claiming that it's not even Jews. One guy said, actually, it's the white nationalists that hate him, and so it's the Muslims. And I'm getting texts from Israel. And then, ironically enough, they're on Twitter congratulating you. Jews are the GOAT. Thanks for the good job for getting thousands of people to report him. So, of course, it's the Jews, and they're lying through their teeth as usual. So here I am, a victim of a mass swatting campaign, which is facilitated through X. One of the people who did it said, I swatted him, and I committed this felony. And then someone goes, you're going to get in trouble. He goes, I'm not in this country. So these are people not in America able to swat an American citizen without any repercussions from Elon Musk. They sent the...
That's crazy to think, dude, because what do you think that they're going to even be willing to spend resources to go overseas and be like, who did that sweating? Maybe they have to go overseas, but at least spend the resources to deal with what it takes to do the international data between back and forth. Like, no way, dude. No way. And now a lot of people are going to be like, wow, like the way he's talking is like, again, dude, give him a little bit of a break, dude. You were getting swatted nonstop. Can't even be around your family. You're fearful. Like, I think most people would kind of be in like some kind of panic state where they'd be pointing fingers at anybody, being like, blame them, blame them. I just feel bad for him, dude. Like, that's something I would never wish on anybody, dude, because then you just fear for your life that like you are never going to ever truly be like private again, or like you're secure again, especially when you have a family.
A plumber to my house. They sent the locksmith to my house because they ran out of pizzerias. They sent the gas guy to my house. So they're using loopholes. For example, the police are not getting calls directly other than this morning. They're calling the suicide hotline for the VA.
Yeah.
And the VA says he's going to kill himself. Or the first day was, I killed my wife, I'm going to kill myself. The next day is, I'm with my dad, I'm going to kill him, even though he doesn't live here. And the third day was, I'm going to burn my house down. Then there was the dead body. I mean, they literally came like 6 times.
Yeah, we actually have a little bit of footage from another visit here. I'd like to roll that. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Put that up here.
Yeah, the FBI contacted the state police.
Okay.
State police contacted us. Sorry.
Go
ahead.
Dude, why is every cop some like, I don't want to be mean, man. I don't want to be mean, but like, I'm tired of looking at my police officers, I guess not mine, but cops that look so unshapely. Like he doesn't look athletic at all. I mean, even just comparison to the guy sitting next to him, it's like, dude, your clothes don't even fit right. It looks like you're going to be weighed down by your vest. Like, I have this frumpy appearance. It's like, man, dude, they really do have no standards at all in policing.
Said that an N0 Gage was going to shoot up a temple or a synagogue. So that's why we're here.
Yeah.
So yeah, now you're going to blow up. Who's Angelo Gage? But the calls are being made here that now you're going to be responsible for blowing up a synagogue.
I don't even have guns, and they all know that. I withdrew my application for a weapon because of PTSD, and my wife has her permit, but we didn't buy it yet. Should we even get them at this point? You know, because my house has been done.
Well, my recommendation is yes, absolutely. You should, if she is lawfully able to possess a firearm, she should absolutely have a firearm. Because listen, I mean, make no mistake here, this is attempted murder. And if they're willing to use the police to try to kill you, they're definitely willing to use unhinged people that side with them to just come and do a traditional murder or a drive-by shooting or, poison you. And
yeah, Sock, you're 100% right. He's saying Columbus Top's gonna be pretty fit. In my experience as well, 100%. I like it's and that's like not even like pretty fit's a good way to describe it. I think most cops are just like they're pretty bulky too. Like there's some like big dudes. Like most cops I've ever interacted with in Columbus, specifically Columbus too, have been of like, that's who you want pulling you out of a burning building. But say I take, a country highway and make it about 15 minutes out of here, and then I'm pulled over by whatever the random sheriff is in that county, whole different story, dude. I'm talking like it takes 8 minutes to wait for the guy to get out the car, dude. You get pulled over, you're like, oh God, it's going to be a 2-hour wait, dude. Just because you got to spend 16 minutes waiting for that guy to get over to your car. But I do agree. Columbus cops are doing, and honestly, to be fair, that could be reflective over the fact of like the crime we deal with here in the Columbus. It's just like, they can't even cut it, dude. It's like, they have to be a specific kind or they just ain't going to be helpful whatsoever. Yeah, a lot of jack dudes on the force. Well, and then you got to think too, Suck, I saw something about this here recently, because you know how like the Arnold is hosted here in Columbus, and you have like Barbell Sebas or Barbell Buckeye, or Buckeye Barbell, I should say. A bunch of these like Rogue Fitness is like headquartered here from like Thorby Johnson. Columbus is like not normal in the sense that it's like there's probably an extra like 5 to 10%, if not more, focus and direction on like fitness and athleticism, and particularly like lifting and like the fitness kind of what do you call that, environment, social group. especially because like it's Ohio. So like there's really not much to do in a lot of the months that aren't summer. So it kind of leads to that as well. I used to be a part of it. I mean, I kind of still am, but not as much anymore. But I used to be in that huge bodybuilder crowd where like I'm getting the latest supplements. I'm in keen with like what Rogue Company's doing here. I want to go try out that brand new gym that opened over there. Like the whole 9 yards. I was trying to think about something different, another metaphor device.
In some way. And you know, to your point, I mean, look at the way that they're poisoning all of these local business owners here by just draining them of money. These people that are doing this to you absolutely have no regard for human life, period, whatsoever.
No. There are people on Twitter saying poison is pizza. So there are Jews on Twitter inciting violence to poison the food and he should be arrested forever. I'm like, for what? It's like, so they're literally, again, promoting genocide in Gaza. You know, Dr. Eli David is like, this guy's unhinged. Watch him. Gabe Hoffman tagged Elon Musk. So these are big accounts that got Elon's attention. But the dirty work has been done by these Jewish Mossad people. They have a docs bin. I called all the credit lines, you know, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, froze all my credits. I called my bank. I called my mortgage company. I changed my phone number. But I'm probably going to have to move, Stu. That's the kind of people we're dealing with because they won't stop. It is.
So I'm saying fitness is huge here. I used to work the Arnold every year. It's crazy how many bodybuilders we have here. Yeah, and part of it too is even when the Arnold comes around as well, it will around the Arnold you can specifically tell when it's happening because I'll notice it when I'm at like my home gym or around nearby because then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, like I've never seen these guys before and these are some of the biggest dudes I've ever seen in my life. There's a lot of like these like travel gyms too, where like people come like a long way to be like, I want to lift at this gym, like particularly, and I don't even know if it's still there or not because I'm pretty sure it got vandalized during the 2020 Summer of Love here in Columbus, and it's one of the gyms. I believe that it is Buckeye Barbell, if I'm remembering correctly. It might be something different than that. It could be something iron. Is where apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger had like came in and had done like lifting and shoots before. That one ended up getting vandalized, but I had been to that one before. That was one that has like a lot of like travel capacity. So you get like all these influencers who are like these fitness people will come and take a long trip out to like essentially kind of like do a tour and then make more connections, get like more brand deals. And a lot of it too is like getting like the name out there, participating in more gyms, because that's what it really is. Like a lot of these bodybuilders will go literally gym to gym to gym to gym to gym, different one every day, in an attempt to help build out like their network or sell supplements or get more recognition and whichever their program might be. Because some bodybuilders are in for it just for influence, and some of them are in for it for like an actual personal training regimen. So it's like there's a good mixture. And then the woman I'm less familiar with because there's a whole different triage of different things that the women do in the influence industry for bodybuilding. For men, it's like one of two. It's like you're either the influencer or you're a trainer. It's like one of two. Or or you sell subs. You know, it's like one of the three. Say World Gym East was where. Yeah. Oh yeah. World Gym East was where Arnold used to work out, where he was here for shows. It's if I remember right, it's on Front. I don't want to dox him. I'm not doxing him. You almost made me dox him. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's like downtown area if I remember right. But in the Summer of Love, I remember going down there a couple of days afterwards, and it was just, dude, it was like that nice sushi place, the Arnold gym, like windows shattered everywhere. So I'm not sure if it's still there, but again, yeah, Columbus has huge fitness appeal for these reasons.
Is a Jewish problem, and these people are literal terrorists. I spoke out loud. That's it. I've never heard a Jewish person in my life, even in Costco. I don't talk to these people negatively. I let them pass it. Oh, you need a car? Here you go, sir. Actually, the locksmith turned out to be a Jew. Funnily enough, I thought he was Palestinian, and I told him, you know, this is what's happening. Anyone who came to my house, I told him it was the Jews. And he was just a zogbot in his head. All the hostages, Hamas, the rapes. So I didn't mistreat. I just said, okay, man, we disagree, but go ahead. Because some of these people are just brainwashed. And, you know, even the Christian Zionists are that way. Like, I don't care about the babies, and they call themselves Christians.
Well, this locksmith doesn't have keys to your house, does he?
People think I'm this unhinged psychopath who like yells at people. That's my drill instructor shtick. when I talk to people, it's like me and you. So even this Jewish guy, when I found out he was a Jew, he started complaining about Hamas. So I'm like, yeah, but you've been killing people for 100 years. Yeah, but our host. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's just keep going our own ways. My wife is, she's completely spent. I'm spent. I told her, take your stuff, get out. If you need to get on a plane, go somewhere, I'll stay home and deal with all the crap. Because I have a dog. I can't leave my dog by myself.
But you're not going to stop. I know that for a fact.
That's right.
Can't leave the dog
on this mission. What would you want people to do over on X?
Keep pushing free Lucas Gage. Tag Elon Musk as much as you can. He's got to see this. He's got to see that he's allowing people to facilitate felonies on his platform, to coordinate them, and people mocking me, and they're all bragging about it.
I think that's a good point. Good point to end it there. I think pretty much they say the same exact stuff. They had to wrap it up. So yeah, I mean, reach out to it. I mean, if my word wasn't good enough, if you didn't see enough here, I encourage you to go to X. Entirely, at least my sphere of what I see on the For You following algorithm is essentially up in arms, really, at the disingenuous nature of it, how inconsistent it was, how much more direct some of these other calls to violence from so-called, again, these Zionist Christians, blatantly calling for it, to compare to what he said, which was attached with a quote saying the same thing, which was a lot more ambiguous than what we saw from the other ones. It's just like, man, a little consistency would be nice. But in all reality too, I want to hit on that note right there before I end this out, which is what he said there at the end, which is essentially that you have a lot of these Christian Zionists who maybe not even, probably don't even realize that they're Zionist, to be honest with you. Because again, a lot of people just, they call themselves Christian because it sounds better to them. Seems to be like a nice little status booster for a lot of people in different ways, for whatever that may be. And supporting the killing of babies. And, this is kind of a theme we've touched on a little bit. Even Sock brought that up in a comment saying, why do people so pro-death? I don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't explain it to you. For someone who's been around situations that have been extremely terrifying and high stakes, and I've seen some stuff I wish I really wouldn't have, I don't understand either. And it makes this point of, I guess the best way I can say this too, is we have all of what we're going on. You've seen all of what was going on with the John Deere stuff. You see people fight tooth and nail to not install anything that's anything relevant to like anything that could be deemed as being a Christian theocratic state, just being spat on, being refused outright. But everything else is fair game. It's just like, I can't even play this game anymore, dude. Like, I don't even want to play at all. Like, I'm so, and really a good place to end this specifically, I'll tell you this short story as it was told to me by Andrew Wilson from the Crucible. And he had a recent debate, and I encourage any and all of you, especially if you're in the Christian realm. It's Christian anarchy versus Christian nationalism. Now, most people don't realize that the default position of most evangelicals here in this country, Protestant evangelicals, is Christian anarchy, which defaults to the position of essentially saying, hey, like, we should, Christians should just like, they default to that Ephesians 6 verse that I did a few weeks ago, which is essentially them saying like, our battle's in spirit, it's not of this world. And they use that as an argument to go sit on their couch and eat Cheetos and then just praise God in silence while never carrying it forward and being bold in it. And Andrew Wilson obviously is on the other side of that, opposing it and being a Christian nationalist or Christian populist, interchangeable essentially for him. Kukla in here saying, sorry, late to chat. My dog was stricken with Lyme disease. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. You've been at the vet all day with her. Oh, I'm very, very sorry to hear that about your dog. I hope, I'm not sure really what Lyme disease does or really how it affects it. I hope it's not too seriously. I'm not a big animal person because I'm allergic all the time, but I am very sorry for you. Everybody, while they're here, at least say a prayer out to Kukla dealing with that for their dog, and let's hope it's not serious. I really do hate to hear that. It's probably really close to your animal. I apologize for that. I'll be thinking about your dog. You should put your dog's name in here too, so we know him by name as well. I'll think about him. I'll say a little prayer for him tonight. I always try to pray before I go to bed. The bigger point here being, though, with what I wanted to say, with this Christian nationalist versus Christian anarchy, forgive me, is Christian anarchy is like this default position of like, no, Christians shouldn't take over the government. You know, we're just going to believe in God, and our battles within the spirit. It's not of this realm. And so they take this kind of backseat. Man, I cannot talk about almost choke. They take this backseat position, which is essentially, we're not going to impose morality in any form. We're gonna allow all morality be imposed against us, but we won't push anything forward ourselves, right? It's this. They use that Ephesians 6 verse that's so heavily quoted, which is, again, our battle is not of this realm; it's of the spirit, yada yada. And I wish I could quote it better, because I went into great detail to prove that in that same verse, it also specifically points out to battle the rulers of this realm. It makes that clear delineation. And what we got to update here? Sock saying he hopes the dog gets better, man. Yeah, me too. She says, thank you so much, Antlers. I almost lost over the weekend, and it's touch and go, so prayers are appreciated. So we will definitely do that, Kukla. I apologize greatly. Yeah, it sounds like you're probably in a spot where you don't know. It's probably going to be up to the dog, essentially. You know, and hopefully, and I would imagine you're treating her well. So, you know, I hope to the best that you can get more time, or as much time as possible with them. I know it's not easy. You know, literally just in the last year or so, we lost, you know, my dog Jericho, and that wasn't a very enjoyable experience at all. Especially because he was such a big dog. He had tumors, and he wasn't even that old. You saying her name is Carmen? That's a good name for a dog. She's a miniature Italian Greyhound Rescue. Miniature Italian Greyhound Rescue. I don't think I've ever heard that in my life before. She probably looks pretty cool. I like to say she rescued me 4 years ago when I found her at the shelter before she was put down. Okay, well, I will remember that. Everyone who is here right now, make sure you remember to keep Carmen in your prayers and thoughts, and Kuka as well. Especially for somebody who's also right now currently dealing with a situation that's close to home. I know what it's like to have something close to you feel like it's going to get yanked and taken away from you. So once again, I apologize, and I really hope that can go as good as it possibly can, Kukla. You know, because it could be one of the two ways. It could be, if it's a lot of pain, you could be faced with this decision where, you know, you're kind of making the best that you can of what there is. But again, I will think of your dog and Carmen and and you, and I hope everything goes well for you. So again, I apologize. But I guess I just wanted to end it with this little thing, which was Christian nationalism versus Christian anarchy. The biggest thing I can make with this is, I'm a Christian nationalist, Christian populist. I think Christian anarchy is a terrible idea, but I think it's the default position of most people, what they take with Christian elements. You should look it up. It was The Crucible, Andrew Wilson versus John Mosman, I believe is the name of those two people. But I'll end it here. It was a phenomenal little parable, short story. And it goes like this. There's a woman named Sarah. It was flooding in this area, and Sarah could not escape. Sarah was stuck on the top of the roof of this building. And so she realized she had no other option. She missed her family. She missed everything. And she was like, Lord, it's in your hands. And she goes, please save me from this flood. And the Lord reaches down and he answers, and he goes, okay, Sarah, I'll save you. Some time goes by, and the Coast Guard rolls by, and they see this woman on top of the building, and they go, hey, we would like to help you out. We'd like to save you. And Sarah goes, no. It's fine. You know, God's going to save me. And then a little bit later, you have a sailing boat comes by, and he was a guy by himself, and he's like, hey, I just so happen to have enough room. I can take somebody on. Like, if you don't leave right now, like you're going to die. It looks like the waters are getting worse. She goes, no. God will save me. And so she waves on the sailing boat. And another hour passes by, and then it's just a dinghy. It's a small little dinghy. It's an old fisherman, and he's like, hey, lady, you're not going to make it. I can't stay much longer. You're going to die out here. And she goes, no, God's going to save me. And then eventually the waters get too high. The flood continues, and she perishes. And she gets to the Lord, and she says, Lord, why did you not save me? And the Lord says, Sarah, I tried 3 times. It follows the same line of argumentation that you do not ask of God what man can do. And I'll leave that at that. And again, Kukla saying, you guys are all awesome. Thank you. I'm so sorry about your dog, Jericho. I know it was hard on me. It was really hard on our parents, especially because he was such a young, lovable, dumb dog. She looks like a full-size greyhound, but shrunk down to 12 pounds. When he took like the window and made her a lot smaller. And then Kukla saying, thank you, Atlas. Keep you posted. Blessings. We'll end it there. Again, everybody, reach out to Kukla. Pray for Kukla, for the dog. And then also, I will also ask, please pray for my parents and my little brother as well for the situation we're dealing with at home. Christ is King. I'm going to leave it at this. Wasn't a huge news day, but quite a bit to talk about, at least opinionated in that level. Should be seeing some clips being posted to YouTube in the coming days as well. I'll get back into that rhythm of doing so. But again, I appreciate everyone who is here. And again, appreciate Socks for the super chat earlier. Huge thank you for that. Little things like that help me go a long way. But again, Christ is King. Have a blessed rest of your night. Look forward to me having the guest on sometime soon, possibly this week, probably next week. We'll see with that. But again, take care. Christ is King. And let's hope this country's not done for, man. Take care.